Marcus wiped the tears from his 7-year-old daughter's cheeks as she clung to his worn work uniform, her small body trembling with fever. "Daddy has to go to work now, baby girl," he whispered, his voice breaking as he handed her to Mrs. Chen, their elderly neighbor who had become their guardian angel since his wife died 2 years ago. "I promise I'll be back before you know it, and we'll watch that movie you love, okay?" Emma nodded weakly, her eyes glassy with illness, and Marcus felt his heart shatter into a million pieces as he walked away, knowing he couldn't afford to miss another day of work, not when her medical bills were already drowning them both. The elevator to the 42nd floor of Meridian Industries hummed quietly as Marcus clutched his cleaning supplies, the weight of responsibility pressing down on his shoulders like a physical force. At 34, he looked older, weathered by sleepless nights and the constant worry that plagued every single parent trying to make ends meet. His janitorial uniform was clean but faded, a stark contrast to the pristine marble floors and gleaming glass offices he maintained each night. While the corporate world slept, Victoria Blackwood stood at the floor-to-ceiling windows of her corner office, surveying the city below like a general commanding her troops. At 28, she was the youngest CEO in her company's history, having inherited the multi-billion-dollar empire after her father's sudden death 3 years prior. Her reputation was as sharp as her tailored suits and as cold as the steel and glass tower that bore the family name. She had built walls around herself so high that even sunlight seemed to struggle to reach her heart. The night everything changed started like any other. Marcus pushed his car through the executive floor, methodically cleaning each office with the same quiet precision he brought to everything in his life. He had learned to be invisible in these spaces, to move like a ghost among the remnants of power lunches and boardroom battles. The executives who occasionally worked late barely acknowledged his presence, and that was fine by him. He wasn't there to make friends. He was there to provide for Emma. As he approached the CEO's office, Marcus noticed the lights were still on. Through the glass partition, he could see Victoria hunched over her desk, surrounded by towers of documents and empty coffee cups. Her usually perfect hair was disheveled, and even from a distance, he could see the exhaustion etched in her posture. She had been working 18-hour days for weeks, desperately trying to save a merger that would secure thousands of jobs and billions in revenue. Marcus hesitated. Protocol dictated that he should come back later, but something about the scene struck him. Maybe it was the way her shoulders sagged with defeat, or perhaps it was the recognition of someone fighting their own impossible battle against his better judgment. He knocked softly on the glass door. Victoria's head snapped up, her eyes blazing with irritation. "What?" she barked, not bothering to hide her annoyance at being interrupted. "Sorry, ma'am," Marcus said quietly, stepping into the office. "I can come back later if you need more time." "No, just get it done quickly and quietly," she replied curtly, turning back to her papers. Marcus began his work, moving efficiently around the office while Victoria continued to type furiously at her computer. The silence was thick with tension and exhaustion. As he emptied the wastebasket near her desk, he couldn't help but notice the scattered documents covered in red ink, crossed-out figures, and what looked like increasingly desperate calculations. "The Yamamoto deal," he said softly, almost to himself. Victoria froze. "Excuse me?" Marcus realized he had spoken aloud and felt his cheeks burn with embarrassment. "I'm sorry. I didn't mean to." "What did you just say?" Victoria's voice was sharp. "Dangerous nothing, Mom. I should mind my own business." "No. You said something about the Yamamoto deal. How could you possibly know about that?" She stood up, her chair rolling backward as she fixed him with a withering stare. Marcus swallowed hard, knowing he had crossed a line. I used to work in finance. Before my wife got sick. Before I needed flexible hours to take care of my daughter." Victoria's eyes narrowed. "You used to work in finance, and now you're a janitor. What kind of finance?" "Investment analysis. Mergers and acquisitions, specifically." The words came out reluctantly, as if admitting to a past life he had been forced to abandon. "And you think you know something about my deal?" There was mockery in her voice now, cruel and cutting. Marcus should have stopped there, should have apologized and finished his cleaning. But something about the desperation he saw in those scattered papers, combined with his own exhaustion and worry about Emma, made him reckless. "The cultural integration analysis is wrong," he said quietly. "You're trying to force Western business practices on a traditional Japanese company. Yamamoto Industries values long-term relationships and face-saving protocols over aggressive profit margins. They're not walking away because of the money, they're walking away because they feel disrespected. The silence that followed was deafening. Victoria stared at him as if he had grown a second head, her face cycling through surprise, anger, and something that might have been recognition. "You arrogant piece of," she began, her voice rising. "You think because you read some papers over my shoulder, you understand a billion-dollar deal that I've been working on for months? You think some washed-up janitor can waltz in here and solve problems that teams of Harvard MBS couldn't figure out?" Marcus took a step back, stung by the venom in her words. "I didn't mean any disrespect, ma'am. You were just overstepping your bounds in the most spectacular way possible." Victoria was in full fury now, her controlled facade cracking to reveal the raw pressure she had been under. "Do you have any idea what's at stake here? This deal affects 18,000 jobs, not to mention the future of this company. And you think you can just casually offer advice while emptying my trash?" "I'm sorry," Marcus said, reaching for his cleaning cart. "I'll just finish up." And "No, you won't finish up. You're done. Not just here. Tonight you're done permanently. I'm calling security right now, and you'll be escorted out of this building. Don't expect any references, and don't expect to work in any building I have influence over, which in this city is considerable." Marcus felt the world tilt beneath his feet. "Please, Ms. Blackwood, I need this job. My daughter is sick, and the insurance. Should have thought about that before you decided to play corporate consultant." She was already reaching for her phone. "Security. I need someone on the 42nd floor immediately." As security escorted Marcus out of the building, his mind raced with panic. The insurance through his janitorial job covered Emma's medications. Without it, he couldn't afford her treatments. The medical bills would bury them both. He had tried to help, had seen a solution that might work, and instead had destroyed the one stable thing in their precarious life. The next morning, Victoria sat in her office trying to focus on the Yamamoto deal. But Marcus's words kept echoing. In her mind, cultural integration, face-saving protocols, long-term relationships. She had dismissed him as an arrogant janitor, but something about his analysis nagged at her. Finally, curiosity got the better of her. She called HR and requested Marcus's employment file. What she found made her stomach drop. Marcus Cheney had kept his late wife's surname for Emma's sake, had been a senior analyst at Goldman Sachs before leaving to care for his terminally ill wife. His performance reviews were exceptional, his recommendations glowing. He had been on track for a partnership before his world fell apart. Victoria stared at the file, feeling something uncomfortable twist in her chest. She had always prided herself on being rational, on making decisions based on facts rather than emotions. The facts were clear. She had fired a man whose only crime was trying to help. A man who had already lost everything once and was now losing it again because of her wounded pride. That afternoon, she found herself driving to the address listed in Marcus's file. The apartment building was in a rough neighborhood, the kind of place she usually only saw from the tinted windows of her corporate car. She climbed 3 flights of stairs and knocked on a door marked 3B. Marcus opened the door, his face shifting from surprise to wariness when he saw her. Behind him, Victoria could see a small apartment that was clean but sparse, furnished with obvious second-hand pieces that had been arranged with care. "Ms. Blackwood," he said carefully. "I wasn't expecting Daddy," a small voice called from inside the apartment. "Who is it?" Victoria saw Marcus's expression soften as he turned toward the voice. "It's okay, sweetheart. Go back to bed." But Emma appeared anyway, a tiny girl with dark hair and her father's gentle eyes, wrapped in a blanket that was clearly too big for her. She looked up at Victoria with curious innocence. "Are you Daddy's boss?" Emma asked. Victoria felt something crack inside her chest. Yes, I am. Are you here to give Daddy his job back? He's been really sad since yesterday, and he thinks, I don't know, but I heard him crying on the phone with Grandma Chen." The words hit Victoria like a physical blow. She looked at Marcus, seeing the shame and desperation he was trying to hide, and then at Emma, who was watching both adults with the perceptive worry that children develop too early when their world is unstable. "Emma, honey," Marcus said gently, "Ms. Blackwood is very busy. She doesn't have time to